Let's get right into it. Thank you for coming today, Mr. Riddhiman. Thank you for bringing out this time to, communicate with us on this virtual interview. I know you've been really busy with having 9 to 6 p.m. Zoom calls. So thank you for coming on the show today. I appreciate you being here with us today.
Thanks for having me, Zach. It's great to be here.
Yes. So now, just give people a little bit brief bio about yourself so people can know who we have on today.
Sure. So my name's Riddhiman Das. At this point, I guess I'm a serial startup guy, kind of accidentally up there, but a computer scientist by passion, profession, training, all of that. I started programming. I started with 7 with, my code and so forth, and did a member, which was iVerify, which was the ability to identify people based on the layout of blood vessels in the white part of your eye. Got sold to Alibaba, ended up at Alibaba in China, worked in Israel quite a bit, and then doing my next venture, which is called TripleBlind.
Wow. Now let's backtrack, because iVerify is really big. It's not just something you put on the side. Because I remember when I came to UMKC in 2016, it was the biggest hot news. Now tell us a little bit about iVerify, and because I know it's sold for over $100 million. So give us a little bit of details about iVerify.
So iVerify is still, it's called Zolos now, Z-O-L-O-Z. iVerify built the ability to identify people based on the layout of blood vessels in the white part of your eye. Okay. What that means is if you see the red blood vessels in the sclera of the eye, they're actually unique to you. And they're a non-genetic feature. What that means is you're born, if you, let's say, are a twin or you have a sibling or a triplet, you have unique eye vein patterns. And the beauty of that is it can actually be picked up by a selfie camera without any extra hardware. So the reason why, let's say, for example, Face ID needs Apple's hardware is because faces look so similar between siblings and twins and others, and closely related people, that it's not very accurate, whereas the vein patterns are unique and they can be picked up with a selfie camera. So we built the ability for a smartphone to recognize you based on that vein pattern. And it was very successful. We took it to several countries. We went to market several times. Some were more successful than the others, but where we ended up was supporting many hundreds of millions of users in Asia and also in other emerging markets to being able to log into their secure financial services, whether it's their Alipay account, which is the Chinese equivalent of PayPal, to Paytm, which is the Indian equivalent of Square Cash or PayPal, to several other mobile wallets like that.
Wow, that's fantastic, because I got to talk with Rush. He was supposed to come to one of my events, and Paul Rush was one of the partners with iVerify, if I'm correct.
His name's Toby Rush, but yes,
Toby Rush,
you're right.
Yes, Toby Rush, yes. He was one of the partners with iVerify, and I was able to talk with him back, I think it was back last month, because I want to have him on my event. So yeah, and I'm happy that we have someone who is a tech guy who was a part of that. Now, moving to today, the topic for today is PrivateKit. Now, tell us a little bit about PrivateKit. How did you start with that, and what is it all about?
Sure. So PrivateKit is the ability for communities, nation states, to be able to do contact tracing for COVID in a private way. So if you've seen the solutions that have come out of Singapore or China or Israel, what you've noticed is that the government has really increased its surveillance powers to the point where every move of every one of its citizens is tracked just to be able to do community tracing and community spread of COVID. We believe that that is an overreach of government powers. We do not want them necessarily live in a surveillance state. There's already a lot of surveillance going on. There's a great book by Shoshana Zuboff talking about surveillance capitalism. So we wanted to prove that it is better to be private and yet have all of those functionalities for contact tracing. So TripleBlind, which is the most recent company I'm doing, does privacy as a service enabled by cryptography. And so we partnered with MIT, Harvard, Mayo Clinic, as well as several governmental and nonprofit bodies like the WHO, CDC, and others,
Okay.
to put together this effort to be able to privately enable community spread contact tracing of COVID-19.
Okay. Wow. Awesome. Now, tell us, like, what made you to create this app? What made you to start? What started you with the idea of doing this app? How did that all start? What made you to do it?
Well, we heard some of the early projections, which was going to say, which were saying something along the lines of 60% of the U.S. population is likely to get COVID at least once in their life, right?
Okay.
In the next 2 years, if you will. And we found that those to be alarming statistics. So we knew that the government, that is without any control measures. And so
Okay.
we knew that for the control measures to be successful, you needed a way to be data-driven about it. So this is a way to be data-driven without sacrificing individual digital privacy.
Okay.
And on top of that, now that we've understood to contain, to a certain extent, the
Yes.
uncontrolled spread of COVID, we need to work to getting our economy started back up again. And so to
Okay.
do that, we need to have data-driven metrics as to who's healthy, who's potentially not,
Okay.
so we'll restart the economy.
Okay. Wow. That's awesome. That is, man, that is fantastic. Because I mean, as entrepreneurs, you are pretty much solving a problem, and being able to see this as a huge problem, you literally jumped on it and want to head on to find a solution for those challenges. So now, I know the application will be a voluntary app, but do you know if there are apps out there that are already tracking all our movements? Do you know if there's already things out there that are already doing this, or is this just the first time this has happened?
You mean, is your question centered around COVID or in general?
Yeah, I'm talking about just in general, not
Okay.
about COVID.
So in general, there are apps, unfortunately, that do that. So we
Okay.
believe it to be a broken way to live the world, if you will. So, for example, Facebook does that, right?
Okay.
So if you have the Facebook app on your iPhone or Android phone, what it's doing is sending out whispers over Bluetooth. So
Okay.
anytime you are in the room with someone else, those whispers from each of your Facebook apps or Instagram apps or any other Facebook-related app will talk to each other and figure out that the two of you were in proximity to each other. And so therefore, that builds their knowledge graph and their friendship graph, if you will, to understand which
Wow.
two people in Facebook spend time together. And if so, do they have similar interests, and can I sell them more ads? Let's say, for example, you and I are talking and they know that I'm interested in cybersecurity, so you might start seeing cybersecurity ads, right? And the reason why we believe that's fundamentally broken is because the advertising business model of the internet was an afterthought, right? It was not how the
Yes.
internet necessarily meant to function.
Okay.
So there's an excellent book called Surveillance Capitalism that I've talked about already. What surveillance capitalism's thesis is that the pressure was initiated by venture capitalists who had funded companies like Yahoo and Google and the others around the dot-com crash, and they were VC funded, meaning they weren't making revenue, but
Okay.
then they needed to quickly make revenue in the macro environment of the dot-com crash. And so as a result of that, they all went to ads as sort of the default business model. Now, the problem with advertising is that you need to know so much about a person to be able to make the ads relevant to them.
Yes.
So therefore, when that opens up a market for a futures market on human behavior. If I can predict, Zick, what you are going to be thinking about 24 hours in the future, it gives me the ability and the power to advertise to you as to what you should be looking at, given what I know in a data-driven way about what you should be doing, what you want to be doing in 24 hours. And so therefore, when there is a market for what you will do in the future, there is incentive to modify your future behavior. We know you're not interested in, let's say, Nike shoes today, but let's figure out a way to give you some glitzy advertisements about Nike shoes so that you become interested in it. And we believe it to be a slippery slope to corporate control, if you will. There are better business models out there, and TripleBlind is enabling companies to be able to look for those.
Wow, that's a deeper dive than what I expected. That's the reason why I bring experts on this show, because I know vague information about the technology, but like you gave a whole insight about things that I did not know about, like the Facebook app. The sound it emits. I'm like, what? I did not know that. So that is something good that I want people to know. All these little tips that there are certain things that are going out there that we do not know about. So bringing you on and sharing this information, it's really valuable to us. Now, on to the next question. So tell us how the privacy restriction works. How do you know our location are not being secretly given to the government?
So if you're familiar with encryption, it is a way to obfuscate information so that no one else can read it, right?
Okay.
So encryption's been used since the times of Julius Caesar for warfare and planning of operations and the like.
Okay.
Obviously, at that time, it was primitive, and now we've got very sophisticated techniques to be able to mask information in a way that no one else can read it. But the problem with that is anything that's encrypted today can be decrypted. Meaning, if you are sending your credit card information encrypted from your favorite shopping website, it is encrypted on your computer. It is then sent over to the other merchant, and then the merchant decrypts it, right? And then when they decrypt it, they figure out what the credit card number was, so that they might be able to process your transaction. So in that case, the problem is the data is encrypted in a very, very strong way, but it can be decrypted, and therefore the raw data can be generated on the other side. So what TripleBlind's doing with PrivateKit and the others is performing something called a one-way encryption. The data is encrypted in a way that all operations you do on the data, including the ability to test whether you might have been potentially exposed to COVID, is done entirely in the encrypted domain. So what that means ultimately is, even if a government hacked into your phone, they wouldn't be able to reverse engineer your location, right? So we do everything with user consent. What that means is, unless you consent to sharing your information, no one can have it. The phone also downloads the data from who is infected in your community, as opposed to sending anything out. So it's only in receive-only mode at all times. And therefore, the only risk is if someone subpoenas your phone to see, Zik, I know you have PrivateKit, and I would like to figure out where you've been. And even if someone's like what you saw with the Apple devices that didn't reveal anything about the particulars of the user, you learn nothing about the whereabouts of where that phone has been, because of the one-way encryption that TripleBlind does on it.
Okay. Wow. Another insight right there. Now, let me ask you this, because I know this is really important, because I just learned a couple of days ago that TikTok has this thing where they can track what you're typing, right? And whether you are in the app or outside the app, they can still track it. Now, my question is this. Once you download the PrivateKit app to track people who have COVID-19, will they still be working when you delete the app? Or if you delete the app, everything goes out? How does that work?
No. If you delete the app, everything's deleted. It goes away. The idea behind this is that it is a completely open source app, meaning you can go to GitHub, which is a place where people can store their code. So if you think of TikTok is not an open source app. The code that makes TikTok possible is not inspectable, which is why you may not know exactly what it's doing under the hood. In the case of PrivateKit, it is completely open source. It is supported by hundreds of volunteers from around the world. And a combination of all of that ensures that there's nothing nefarious going on. Right? So if you uninstall the app, or if you're not sure if the app is really doing what it's claiming it's doing, just go look at the source code, right? And the second thing is, it's done as a nonprofit. It is not the TripleBlind corporate entity that is doing the PrivateKit effort to be able to make a couple bucks out of it. We are doing this as a completely nonprofit effort. We do not stand to profit from it. We do not want to profit from it. We're doing this in the service of humanity.
Okay. Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. This is next level, and I'm happy I asked that question so that way we can clarify the intention about using the app, knowing that this is not an app to make money. You guys are actually trying to help. Um,
Yep.
Now, to my next questions, I know you kind of like briefly stated it, but I really want to ask you this. Can you briefly tell us what are the benefits for this app during this pandemic so people can know why this app is important?
Sure. So the app is doing quite a few things
Okay.
with different objectives. So first one is it is showing governments and national bodies and health agencies that it is possible to be able to gain public trust without building a surveillance state to do community tracing of COVID. That's the number one goal. Number two is to enable people to figure out how to reopen their economies. As you can tell, the world economy has almost screeched to a halt. And so, how do
Yes.
you enable that to get restarted in a way that then starts to get going again? And
Exactly.
number three is how do you ultimately make societies more resilient, right?
Mm.
Which is
Okay.
how do you if there is ever a pandemic of this nature or some other similar catastrophe in the future, how do you build technology so that we're more resilient to being able to weather these kinds of storms?
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. Well, now let me ask you this. Is there a release date for this app? And how do people find about how can people get on it? How can people download it? How can people get it?
Sure. So the apps are live on iOS and Android. You
Okay.
can go to the app stores or the Play Store on both of those devices and look for Private Kit. You'll see it. The app is free, of
Okay.
course, and it has no advertisements, no trackers, no in-app purchases or any of that nature.
Okay.
It is completely voluntary, and it enables you to even import your location history from Google and others in the event that you haven't been tracking your location on the app. So it is free to use. It is available today.
Okay. And are there people already using this app or
Yep, several tens of millions of people are using this around the world today.
tens of millions of people? Wow.
Right.
That is a huge number. Wow. Okay. Wow. That means it is a huge success. Cool. Um, okay, now let me ask this because I know there's a lot of people who are panicking now. There's an app that can track my location. I'm afraid of this. So let me clear this out. Let me clear out the conspiracy theories going on in people's minds right now. Will this app eventually be a mandatory app for everyone to have it on their phone so they can be tracked?
We certainly hope not. So that would not be a decision we would make. But let me add to this. This if this were to be made mandatory by some kind of government decree,
Hmm.
um, because of the open source and nonprofit nature of this,
Okay.
you can be more certain than if a for-profit entity were to be doing this. Right?
Okay.
For example, you've heard of Google and Apple enabling the APIs to be able to do that, the infrastructure needing to do that. But keep in mind, that is not Google.org. This is not the nonprofit arm of Google or the
Okay.
nonprofit arm of Apple that's doing this. They have a
Okay.
profit motive. They have shareholders. They have, a mandate to go out and capture business opportunity wherever it might exist. Whereas in the case of this particular application, it's open source, it's driven by nonprofits, so you can be virtually 100% certain that there is nothing nefarious going on under the hood should this be mandatory.
Okay.
But it's likely, we live in a country that's unlikely to happen.
Okay, sweet, beautiful. Now the next question. So, as much as this is helpful, a helpful tool for the season we are in right now, what about the future when this is all over? Like the government will have all our details. How do we stop that?
Well, the government will not have any of your details. All
Okay.
the government, in the context of this app, all the government will have is the trails of the infected people.
Okay.
So today, for example, let's say if you were diagnosed with measles, which is not
Okay.
COVID, a county health official will come to you and ask, where have you been the last 28 days, let's just say, right?
Okay.
And they rely on your best recollection efforts so that you may tell them, which you remember, maybe 14 days ago, I went to the grocery store and I might have met that person and that person. So it's a very ineffective way of doing contact tracing for contagious diseases.
Okay.
What this does is allow the county health officials in the United States, which is a decentralized body, if you will, or several decentralized bodies, to be able to accurately, without relying on people's memory, do community spread of contagious diseases. At the same time, remember I said the data is one-way encrypted. No way that they can reverse engineer any of your information, which stays local on your phone. The government can learn nothing about you.
All right. So I think my question is this. So if someone were to test positive for COVID-19, would they have to impute that in the app? How does the app know that the person has COVID-19? How does that work?
So you would have to be diagnosed with a test, and the county health official would then have to validate that the test was actually done, so that we don't have false positives on the app.
So it's basically going to be for people just who have COVID-19, and if other people want to download this app who do not have COVID-19, they can still download the app and use it for all.
In fact, it is highly recommended that everyone downloads the app so that they can safely predict whether or not they should get tested. Right? It is very important to follow the curve, and this is an excellent tool to be able to do that. So, if you have not been exposed to COVID, there is no reason why you need to go get freaked out or alarmed as to, I just coughed. Is this a COVID cough or is this something else, right? So if you have not been exposed to COVID, you do not need to worry, right? So those are some of the things that we're trying to do for the overall macro healthcare infrastructure, is to prevent it from being overloaded by people who think they might have a COVID symptom when they most likely do not.
Now, this is going to be I think we have 2 more questions and we're done, but this is going to be an off-the-cuff question for me. I've been watching a lot of news and I've seen people who are protesting saying COVID-19 is not real. It's a hoax. What do you think about that conspiracy theory of people saying this is not real? This is just something that people are putting up. What is your perspective on that?
Well, it's a conspiracy theory. So, by giving it any attention, it's going to, permeate deeper and deeper into society. And I think in crisis times like these, we need to minimize fake news and listen to the folks that are in the middle of it, the scientists and the healthcare workers and the caregivers that are actually taking care of society at large, to be able to be in a position to deal with this deadly epidemic. So I am disappointed that there are people that think that this is all some kind of a conspiracy, because that helps no one.
Okay, cool. Now let me ask you this. Now I know that this app is your main focus right now, but are there other projects you're working on during this pandemic?
Actually, it's not our main focus. This is just a side project we did. As I said, TripleBlind is a startup for-profit company, and we did this as a gesture of goodwill to humanity at large. TripleBlind is building privacy as a service and a marketplace for private data and proprietary algorithms, to where different parties can come on together and enable a secure and private exchange of value with their individual data sets and algorithms. So that remains my main focus, which is what I do 80 hours a week. This private kit stuff is sort of a hobby.
Okay. Oh, that's fantastic. Now, before actually last question, I want to ask you this. What is an advice you want to give to, entrepreneurs out there or, business owners out there, just to tell them that this season, everything is not as good as it could be, but it could be better. What is one thing you want to say to people out there today? So
clearly this is an event, right? This is not something that anyone could have predicted. And everyone's hurting. So this is a time to really, buckle down and build. We've and the frothy times, the roaring 2010s, if you will, have come to an end. And now it's time to fundamental things that will make all of our lives more resilient and enable not just the United States, but the entire world to come out stronger on the other side. So put on your building hats and let's get to building.
Let's go. That's what I'm talking about. Now, my last question is this. What is one thing you want to do when this is all over? I know it's not going to be a normal. It's going to be a new normal. But what do you want to do when this is all over?
Well, as weird as it sounds, but this is the longest I've spent in a city in decades. I used to travel millions of miles a year. And you know, as much as flights suck, I look forward to the day when I can go meet customers and clients and partners where I have not been able to go meet with them in the last couple of weeks.
So are you in Kansas City or a different
city right now? Yes.
You're in Kansas City?
Yes.
Yes. Let's go, KC.
There you go.
Now, we have come to the end of the show. I just want to say a big thank you to you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I saw an article about you at EMKC, the EMKC page, and I was like, I love what you're doing. I want to bring you on the show. And I'm looking forward to, when this is all over, eventually bring you on a physical show that we have. We can talk more, because I know that you have a lot of things you're working on, and I really believe in what you're doing, and I would love to, hear more about what you do and how you've come this far, so people can see, your journey and be able to be inspired by your story. So again, thank you for coming on this show. I appreciate you, and thank you for doing this. This is awesome, man. You are doing an awesome job.
Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Yes. Is there a website that people can catch you at, or social media, something you want to
Sure, yes. So the website is tripleblind.market, TRIPLEBLIND.MERKET. And I'm on the usual suspects. You're not going to find me on TikTok, but I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, and all the others. So
awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on, and stay safe, stay healthy. We'll meet up on the other side when this is all over. And
thanks so much for having me, and you do the same.
All right, bye.
All right, take care.
Hey, do not click off. Click the link and go to FiredUp KC on YouTube, and please subscribe. All right, stay safe.